Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. So if you're a parent, I don't have to tell you, it's not easy. And it's a cliche that there's no manual that comes with this. You got to kind of fend for yourself. You can read some advice and things like that. But it can be a challenge. There's so much going on. Work, balance, sports, depending on your kid's age and all of that. How can you be the best parent? And even looking back, maybe what changes you would have made. Chapter 9 of her book, Love Yourself, Love Your Life, talks about raise the human race. So we're going to dig into that chapter today and give some insight on raising our kids and navigating some of those challenges. She is an amazing psychologist, and she's written some great books, including this one. She's back with us. Dr. Ann Creekmore is on the program. Hi, Ann.
Hi, Steve. How you doing?
I'm well. I love this chapter. I missed it. I don't know how when I was looking, throughout the rest of the book, and today it just popped in front of me. What matters? And that is there's a poem here, and I won't get deeper into. Actually, I just saw that you wrote it.
Yes, all the poems in the book are mine.
I didn't realize that. And it's written by your pen name.
Yes.
A.P. Filosa.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
What really matters when it comes to being a parent?
Well, you could read the poem.
I can.
So you don't have to read the poem.
I can, or at least read a part of it. I could definitely do that.
If you want to, you can. You don't have to.
In the passing of years, when the fancy car's gone, when no neighbor's eyes peer at the lush lime green lawn and grand houses grown worn, yet I'll shed no more tears. What most matters in my earthly time phase, how I care devotedly for the wonderful children I raise. That's just a piece of it. Interesting. Yeah. The visuals I got from that, because, and this is my personal takeaway, that we put so much attention on the other things because we think they matter. Making sure the house looks great, got a great backyard for the kids, that the lawn looks great because we think the neighbors are going to be looking and judging and all of that. When you boil it down, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is the amount of time. And we can't always spend a lot of time with our kids, but the quality of that time is what matters.
Yes.
You think that a lot of us put our priorities on things that really don't really matter?
Yes. We may feel shoulds, obligations that we should do this or look at, the externals, the expectations, instead of what do we really, authentically want to do and would fulfill us. And we can get caught up in any kind of external, compulsion, if you will, and then get sidetracked from what's really important in life, which are usually our care and our care of our loved ones. And I agree. Yes.
How do you get past now? Many parents work multiple jobs. How do you get past the guilt of not spending enough time with your kids? Now, let's be honest. You have to have your time too, because cliche, on the airplane, they tell you to put the mask on you before you put it on the person next to you.
Right. Correct.
How do you get past the guilt, in those situations?
Well, a good way to evaluate whether you've got good guilt or bad guilt, like if you really have a reason, like your conscience is pricking and you should pay attention to it, that would be kind of good guilt, telling you no, don't go steal something or whatever, is to ask yourself a couple questions. And this can apply to any guilt about anything. But you just ask yourself, one, am I breaking my word if I promise to do something? So I'm breaking my promise to somebody. And two, am I doing something unethical? I'm a criminal, that I know I shouldn't do. It's something that goes against my value system. And then if you answer no to both of those questions, then you kind of say, well, that's probably bad guilt. Let it go to the universe, go release it somewhere to God, whatever it goes, just get rid of it. And don't, guilt trip yourself. Don't shut on yourself, as they say.
Yeah, well, it's true, and I look back. My youngest is now 16 and lives with me. And when I look back, I try not to shit on myself, But I look back and I say, you know, based on what I've learned, even in the last couple of years, not even kidding, I would have parented differently. But I can't say to myself that you should have done this and you should have done that. I didn't know
Right.
at the time. I learned a lot,
Right.
from people like you.
Exactly.
And it's,
Right.
now there's always time, to make corrections and be a different person. But a lot of the way I parented previously when they were younger came from my values growing up and what I got from my parents. And I think that's true
Exactly.
of all of us.
That's all the training we get.
Yeah.
That's it. We can observe our parents and what we experience for the most part. That, children don't come with manuals or any kind of training. We got more training to learn how to drive our car and go through more tests. So yes, that's what you go by. And when you go by that, even if you say to yourself, "Oh, well, I don't want to ever do that." I'm not going to say that the way my dad said it or my mom said it. You still find it coming out of your mouth, later on. But you do the best you can, and then you learn. And often they teach you as well what works and doesn't. And then, you do better as you go on.
Do you think that the world would be a better place and we would be better parents if before we had kids, and this is a fantasy.
Yes,
If we had therapy or were able to work on ourselves from our childhood, because we've identified before that, a lot of the way we act as adults came from our childhood.
Absolutely. We're totally on the same page. I was thinking exactly the same thing, that ideally, parents would have their own therapy, their own self-discovery before they have children, so they could work on their own issues and be kind of clear. Like the program I was in, becoming a psychologist, we were required to get therapy, to kind of work through our blind spots and not bring them in to being a therapist. And I think that would be super. And I think it's great when people come in, to therapy and they work on themselves. Sometimes they come in, when the child is young because the child is having a problem. Or maybe they're having a problem. They can't really control their temper or their frustration with the child who's got a problem. But whatever it is or whenever it is, it's always good to go into therapy and just work through your own stuff so you can just kind of be this, clear, vessel of love and patience and so on, and not get triggered and lose your temper with your child or say things you really don't mean. And if you go into therapy, you'll work. A lot of people come in, they'll, whether they come in for themselves or for their child, they'll eventually bring them up and talk about some issues. And it can be just like an adjunct to your therapy, even just how to, to parent or how you feel about your parenting and want to improve it.
Do you feel that many of us are our parents? You always hear that, "Oh my God, I just realized I'm my mother, I'm my father." Do you believe that we are in many regards?
Absolutely, because that's how we've learned. And it just comes out unless we've actually worked through our feelings about it or made conscious decisions to do things differently. I'll work through some traumas, even when you're a child, certain things happen to you at certain ages that might actually, not have been handled, in the way that it healed. You didn't maybe get taken to therapy to work on having been bullied, so you didn't work that through. And then when your child enters school and you're all worried about them being bullied because that's what happened to you. And then you maybe can put up the defenses for them that aren't even going to be necessary. But it's just on your subconscious mind.
100%. And my mom was somewhat overprotective. And in the beginning of being a parent, so was I. And I didn't realize it.
Exactly.
I was just doing what I thought I should be doing until I realized later in life, if the kids would be running or something, like, "Oh, I can be careful, be careful." And then one day I just had an epiphany. So what? You fall, you get hurt. Suck it up. What's the worst that can happen? If it's stitches, if it's a broken bone, it's all your kid. It's all going to heal.
Yeah.
Within reason. I'm talking
Within
here.
reason, it's what they do best. Just get a little boo-boo here and there, It's one of the
Yeah.
things they do best. So, let them feel free and just they're going down, and then they pop up and they didn't even know they had a fall. It's like, whoa, I was doing something fun. Yeah, that's what I used to do when I see them go down. Whee! And then they're like, yeah, that was cool.
You know what? You know what's funny as we're talking about this, Ann? I'm getting flashbacks to injuries I got when I was younger. Call it, before the age of 10. And I love it because there's a story there. I mean, I fell off my bike and I still have like a little scar on my knee I must have been like 8 years old. And I'm like, it's cool. It's a story. Or there was a time they were
right.
renovating a house across the street and I walked into the garage, stepped on a rusty nail, and then I had to get a tetanus shot and all that. But
yes.
but what's
Quite
cool about it is
experience.
I remember those. I remember those stories. And now that's part of me. Maybe my kids don't have them because maybe I was a little overprotective in the beginning, but the point here is
It's okay. It's nothing wrong with being protected.
we are our parents. We are our parents, whether we realize it or not. And that's the way it is. It's generational. We learn from them and they learn from their parents and so forth and so
Absolutely.
on.
Right.
Motherhood. You focus in that chapter quite a bit on motherhood. What are some thoughts that you have there?
Yeah, I had originally started to write that book as for working moms. And then I realized all of the different types of therapy and the treatments and so on were appropriate for moms and dads, especially these days where moms and dads are both working and both usually parenting and sharing the load. So now I've made myself forget your question. So in other words, is this for everybody? Even though that chapter is written for mothers, working mothers, it really applies to everybody. And so I apologize. What was your question?
Just thoughts on motherhood in general.
Yes, I think, my thoughts on motherhood in general are that it's a time that, it's going to pass, or fatherhood, right? It's a time that's going to pass quickly, more quickly than you realize. And you really want to savor those moments and have time, with your children. And so I feel it's hard for, parents and families when both work like full time. I mean, it's tough. I mean, it's great if you can have like a nanny housekeeper that actually will fill in and throw laundry in and cook meals. And so you're not just back to just surviving and doing the home, chores yourself instead of spending time. But if there's any way that you can spend time, with your children and enjoy those years, and not be all stressed out, I think that's important. It's just a wonderful time to have. Yeah.
Let's talk about your marriage and the, the possibility if divorce is creeping in there now. And I want your opinion on this. I really do. I've talked to some people that believe that you get married, you have kids, you made a commitment to the kids, short of abuse.
Right. Correct. You can't stay there.
You stay in the marriage because and it's been said that it's like putting your kids underneath an emotional bus and they're getting run over when divorce takes place. And you figure it out, you work together. That's, some people I've talked to, that's their belief. What are your thoughts there? And what are your thoughts with, people who stay together, they're having issues in the relationship for the sake of the kids? Overall, what are your thoughts?
Right. Well, I mean, of course, when you get married, it is a commitment. And it's not something that, you just break your word out of the blue unilaterally. I mean, it's obviously something that you want to talk to your partner about if you have dissatisfactions. And of course, I'm a therapist, so what am I going to say, right? I think that anyone who's considering breaking up or separating should get therapy, couples therapy, marital therapy. I mean, it's worth trying to see if you can make it work. That because especially if they haven't had any therapy before. So, and if both people, partners are willing to make a commitment to work on the relationship, there's a good chance of success that they can figure out those, issues and come to some livable win-wins to make it work. Now, and as you said, though, of course, I mean, if there was something like a domestic violence situation going on, obviously that's separate, you don't stay in harm's way. And that's better for everybody concerned, both sides get apart, and because the perpetrator can be going to jail and ruin his life or whatever. And but even then, they could be separated. They don't have to be seeing each other. And if there's no restraining order at that point, and it really hasn't been a full domestic arrest type of thing, they can work living in separate households to see, what led up to that, what's been triggered, learn anger management. There's like DV school where they teach both partners, how to behave so that it doesn't escalate into a physical aggressive incident. So, that's me. I would say just, when you start early. A lot of women, and somebody was just talking about this, one of my clients, and he was citing some research, which I was familiar with. It reminded me that women a lot of times will try to talk to their partners that they're unhappy. And so by the time that they actually are saying, well, now I want to just separate, it's been like 2 years, according to the research or something, where they feel they have been reaching out and saying they're unhappy and they want to work on this and they're getting no response. And they're doing their grief work. They're crying and they're feeling the sadness of feelings of impending loss. And they're kind of in a better place by the time that the man finally finds out, like, what? And he's just at the beginning of shock in the first phase of grief. And she's already worked through and been doing some of her grief, actual mourning, and they're in totally different places. So, if there's problems, come to couples therapy. And even, of course, premarital therapy would be ideal for everybody. Work through those issues from your parenting and what baggage you bring in and heal those together, and then get to a really good place. So you're in a solid foundation for your marriage.
What you said, I've heard that when a woman makes a decision to end the relationship, she's already made the decision minimum 6 months before.
Right.
It's already been done.
She's realized it's not working. Yeah.
She's already checked out, probably even longer, especially if it's a longer relationship. Right. So to your point, by the time she's done, whether it's going to be separation or divorce, she's already checked out in her mind. Meanwhile, the man is like, what?
I didn't know that anything was wrong, but they have been trying to talk the whole time and ask them, could you come to therapy maybe, or tell them they're having problems, but they just in denial, I guess, don't really pick up on it. But it doesn't mean I just had some clients that, they broke up, they weren't married, but they were together for a long, long period as partners. And then she realized it wasn't, finally did break up, but now she's going through some hardships and he's been staying along, being her helper all along and wanting to be around. And they're coming back to therapy, because he is the person who, when she's going through the hard time, has that connection with her that I call it, there's the 3 connections that make for a long-lasting, healthy relationship. And the most important one is that kind of best friendship. It's almost like a parenting devotion that you have toward that person, where if they're in trouble, you're the one going to be there for them. You're looking out for them. And that's vital, and it has to go both ways. Of course, there's the romantic chemistry, and then there's the life philosophy communication one. I mean, that could be your religion or spirituality or whatever, to talk deeply about life and grow emotionally or psychologically or spiritually. And but this person's kind of been here, still devoted during the breakup, and now she's going through a hard time. It looks like maybe they're going to come in and get their therapy that they didn't get before they broke up. Yeah.
What about in situations where parents are working hard, money is a challenge, and sometimes things have to go to the side, but again, comes back, I guess, to the guilt. How do you manage the lack that might be going on in a family dynamic?
Right. Well, that's good. I mean, it's something that you can focus on. I mean, it's something to problem solve. like how, because, and to try to come from a place of prosperity and not of lack. Like just to be open that you will be provided for, that what you need, will come, and be open to that, and then proceed from there. And then you be, instrumental in your own life to figure out, well, how can this happen? Where can this happen? Start with your budget. What can we cut out? Where can we add? Sometimes people do things and they, if they don't look at all the details, they're doing things that aren't really necessary, and then they can have more money than they realized if they just changed something or did something differently. But I mean, I know it's tough, but it is something to just be open, to the good coming to you, and then kind of proceed on that.
Well, this gets back to the principle of energy and being open to receiving. And you just said it, where if you come from a place of lack and negativity, it's weird, we're never going to have enough money. We need a new car. We can't buy that. We're never going to be able to. It's been said energetically that if you think that way, that's the way it's going to be. You're not going to have extra money. Things aren't going to change. So if you come from a place of positivity, all right, we have what we need, and it would be great if we had more. Maybe that's coming our way. You never know. More times than not, I've seen people make changes in their life just from that things just showed up. They're like, got a refund check in the mail. I wasn't expecting. Here it is.
Right. It took care of the repair thing we needed to have done. It's done, So yes, absolutely. The openness to the good is fundamental, to creating good in your life. And knowing you deserve good, and it'll be there.
Love the chapter, and I didn't realize that all the poems were written by you.
Oh,
wow.
Yes,
so cool.
Thank
you.
That's
one of a few books that you've written, and details on how, if somebody is looking at maybe some either marriage counseling, or they're looking for some psychotherapy as an individual to be a better parent, or even the books, how do we find you?
Yes. The easiest way is to just go to Psychology Today. It's kind of a directory for a lot of therapists, and just put in my name, Ann Creekmore, and it's under my picture. My name is just, I put a link, and it goes right to my website with the phone numbers, books, and so on. So it should be pretty easy. Psychology Today.
Always great talking with you, Ann. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you, Steve.
We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ann Creekmore. I want you to know that you have the power to shine your light and be a magnificent, authentic person that you are in your mind, body, and spirit, and to have a wonderful, fulfilled life. I have written several books, but the one I'm sharing about is Love Yourself, Love Your Life. I want you to have that book so you can start healing the emotional wounds of the past and release any negative subconscious beliefs that are holding you back, so you can become the whole, fulfilled, happy person you're meant to be. Please feel free to contact me. You can find me on Psychology Today, which links into my website. Thank you. Blessings and love.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.